Hello and welcome to Technophobe. On today's video, I'm going to review the Rosewill FBM-06 micro ATX case. Now, spoiler alert, just go out and buy one. I love this case. When I bought this case, it was on special in Canada. It was on special for $19.99 and then $10 shipping, unfortunately. But what a great value. When I opened it up and I started checking out the features, and I was going, oh my goodness, it has this, it does that. I cannot say enough good about this case. And I know that Rosewill cases get a lot of hate on YouTube, and some of the points that they make are very valid. I totally agree with them. Review Tech USA did a PC build some time ago, and he built in a Rosewill case. It wasn't this one, but it was one that was similar, similar in design, similar in size. And he told his audience, do not buy this case. This case is terrible. And you know, maybe he made some good points. Where's the side panel? Here's the side panel. This is a very cheap case. It's very cheaply made. And here's one of the side panels. Well, the one that's off right now. And I don't know if you can see this, but there is quite a bit of flex to that panel because they're thin. I mean, the steel is thin because the case is inexpensive. But what impressed me so much about this case was how many amazing features that it had that I have either not, like, I'm used to working in old cases from many years ago, and those cases didn't have any of these features basically, or not very many of these features. And so I was so impressed by the case. And you know, if you have to look at it from the point of view that this case only cost me $20 plus tax plus shipping. So let's say for $35 Canadian. And yes, it's cheaply manufactured, but the company that builds these for Rosewill, I've forgotten the name of it, but Kyle from Bitwit mentioned the company that makes these cases, and they do a fantastic job. They really do a fantastic job. So I'm not too sure how much detail to go into with this review. So I guess I'll just get started. Okay, first of all, on the side panel, as you can hopefully see, here we go. Okay, you have a side vent here, and there's cutouts at the bottom for ventilation. And what I did, if I flip this over, is I bought some filters. They're plastic or nylon or some kind of plasticky material. And it's mesh, and I bought them from China for next to nothing. I bought like a package of 5 or something, and as you can see, I just taped it over the ventilation to improve the dust filtration. And I put a little one up here, a little piece of one up here, but I ran out of them, so I wasn't able to continue across. So that's the side panel. Oh, and I wanted to say that Another feature that really impressed me, I don't know if you can see it on camera, it's hard to tell, is, here, I'll put it this way, is it has the bump out in the steel so that you can grab this to pull the side panel off. And I've worked on so many cases over the years where, you know, you try and loosen the panel, there's nothing to grab onto, so you have to put pressure against the side, and you cramp up your hands trying to do it and trying to get it to slide off and, you know, unlatch, and it's a nightmare. Whereas on this case, you've got the little handles right in the steel, and you just pull it off. I'm so impressed by that at this price point. So, and that goes for both sides. Both sides are the same thing. Another thing which really impressed me is you get thumb screws. Now, mind you, they're plastic, so there is that, but you get 4 thumb screws on both side panels, and that is a feature that I just wouldn't expect to find on a case at this price point. Very, very impressive. You also get an included 80mm fan, and the fan I thought would be noisy as heck, and it's actually really quiet. It's a very quiet case fan. The only noise it makes is if you put your ear up to it, very close to it, it makes a bit of a ticking sound, which could be the bearings, I don't know. And I believe, yes, it has a 3-pin, standard 3-pin fan connector. So very impressed. I was planning on taking this fan out, and it was so good that I left it in, because I have much better fans than that. And at the front, if you can see it here, you've got a spot for a 120mm fan. So I put in an Arctic cooling fan, and I plugged it into, it's got the PWM sharing, so I plugged it in with I'm trying to do this in the monitor. I plugged it in with the CPU fan, so that when the CPU fan speeds up, then this fan at the front will speed up as well. And it's very, very quiet. The whole system is super quiet. And on the front here, we have, let me get it into the light, one 5¼ bay. And unfortunately, I have a drive in there, so you can't see the bay cover. But everything on this case is beautifully made. The bay cover fits beautifully, it fits perfectly, and when you take the cover off, the drive fascia fits perfectly in the opening. You know, usually the drive will sit crooked when you mount it, or there'll be like a bigger gap on this side than the other side, or a bigger gap at the bottom or the top. And this drive fit in here perfectly, like very impressive. And the front of the case is slightly rounded, and I thought maybe I wasn't going to be happy with the you know, once you pull the bay cover off, the drive bay cover, you know, now this is flat instead of rounded, but it looks fantastic. I'm so happy with this. Okay, so on the top we have, let's see if I can, hopefully you can see that. Yep. Okay, we've got a big power button, very clicky, nice feeling quality power button. Like another thing that I wouldn't expect on a case in this price point. We've got 2 USB 2, one here, one here. We've got audio jack, microphone jack, USB 3, hard drive activity light, which is red, and a power light, which is blue. Both LEDs are very bright, but they point up, so they're not going to shine in your face. And then over here, we have a reset switch. Well, who uses reset switches anymore? But anyway, it's nice that it's there. And then on the back side, or the right side, I keep calling front and back, but this is the front, this is the back over here at the back. So this would be the right side or the left side, depending on how you want to say it, and then the other side, of course. So along the front of the case, you have ventilation on both sides. It's a metal grill, and it's, again, it filters the dust really, really well. I mean, yes, dust gets through, but it's fantastic. I know I sound like a poster child for this company, but I guess I am, because I love this case. Okay, so on the back, the actual back of the case, we have the I/O shield, of course, and we have 4 expansion slots, and they come with the covers are I believe you have to break them out. Yeah, you have to break them out. So I think one of them might have been broken out already. I'm not sure. Let me get it in the light. But anyway, you've got 4 expansion slot covers, and unfortunately you have to break them out, but you can't expect removable covers at this price. And then up at the top you have the power supply opening. Now it's at the top. People are going to say, oh well, it's not at the bottom. You know what? I think this idea of, I agree with the design idea of putting the power supply at the bottom. However, for years and years and years, the power supply was always at the top. And it makes sense because the fan on the power supply is going to draw, the heat's going to rise through the case, it's going to rise up, it's going to be sucked out by the power supply fan out the back. So you're doing double duty. You're cooling the power supply and you're also exhausting hot air. But then somebody decided, oh, well, that's a silly idea. And so they started putting the power supplies at the bottom, which is fine, but I prefer this. Now in here, I have a micro ATX power supply, an SFX power supply. And so it actually works out quite well because then you can see you have more room in the interior because the power supply is so small. So I really like the fact that I went this route. I have lots of full-size power supplies, but with an optical drive in here and a full-size power supply in here, it would be very, very cramped. You couldn't even have a modular power supply with the optical drive in there because there wouldn't be room. So now then, on the interior, we've got the one optical bay, and then we have 2 hard drive bays. And on the bottom hard drive bay, you've got screw holes here and here so that you can mount an SSD at the very bottom of this bay, which I think is really fantastic. Also at the bottom of the case, down here, you can see ventilation here. This is another spot where there's openings, there's holes for the screws to mount a 2.5-inch SSD or hard drive down at the bottom, which I think is fantastic. I don't know that it's that useful, that particular spot, because then it gets in it would interfere with plugging in your motherboard standoffs and what have you. But I think it's amazing that somebody thought to put a drive mount down at the bottom. I'll just flip it over so you can see the underside. There you go. Now you can see the holes for the mounting holes for the 2.5-inch drive. Okay, now I'll just take off the other side panel. As far as CPU cooler clearance, again, it's great. This is an old Cooler Master tower cooler, and I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but there is, like, it barely fits, but this is a pretty tall cooler, and you can still get the side panel on, so I think that's amazing. Now I'll take off the other side panel. Or not. Can't get it off. All right, what seems to be the major malfunction here? There we go. Gee, that one was tight. Okay, so there's the back of the case. And you can see there's a 2.5-inch SSD mount here, or hard drive mount. And there's a motherboard cutout, of course. And, you know, there's not a lot of room on this side of the case. There's not a lot of depth here, but there's enough that you can do a little bit of cable management, as I have done. And the fewer cables you have in your system, of course, the better off you're going to be. So I'm trying to think what else. Now, as far as this 2.5-inch drive mount goes, I'm not sure whether you're supposed to mount it on this side, on the back side, or on the inside. Oh yeah, it's supposed to be mounted on this side because there's another ventilation cutout. Not a cutout, but where it's the metal is pushed out, so you can't really mount the drive on the other side because the bump out would hit the drive. So, oh yes, and I also wanted to mention the feet. The feet on the case, they're nice tall feet. They're solid. They're decent quality. They have rubber on the bottom. Like, I can't say enough good about this case. I really can't. I just really can't say enough. So I think what I'm going to do is, I think I've droned on long enough, and I just really want to highly recommend that if you're in the market for a micro ATX case that's inexpensive, if you get it on special. I think regularly in Canada it was like $35, and I got it for $20. I never buy anything at full price. So yeah, just shop around or wait for the sales or whatever. And yeah, I highly recommend this case. I can't recommend it enough. So I hope that you have found this review helpful, and I've certainly enjoyed. I love doing reviews. I really do, especially for products that really impress me, like this one has. So I hope that my enthusiasm for the product has been well received, and I hope that it's been helpful to you. And my name is Laura, and I hope you, oh my God. So I hope you've enjoyed the, oh my God. So I hope you found the video useful, and thank you for watching.